Welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast. Today's entrepreneurs are mental athletes that have to know about the mind and how to keep it fit. Our goal is to increase our resilience against stress and anxiety, optimize our productivity, motivation, and optimism by learning about the human mind through psychology, neuroscience, and human behavior. I'm your host Ozan. I'm a founder who has experienced the challenges of launching and growing a business and a keen student of human behavior over the last 15 years. I'll share with you what I know and learn. Hundreds of impactful, behavior-changing ideas are waiting to be discovered by us. Let's begin now. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Mental Fitness Podcast for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host Ozan, and today's topic is Give with a Sense of Purpose. So having studied psychology in tandem with sociology, I was quite skeptical about some of the theories, some of the psychologists, and I'm not a fan of many psychologists because of this very specific reason. But Adam Grant is not one of those. I truly respect his mix of research and insight. I think he's one of the best people in his field. And he defines himself as an organizational psychologist, so the type of psychologist whose work is really valuable for people working in large organizations, startups, enterprises, and in business and in creative pursuits as well. So it sits very well with what entrepreneurs need and their mindset. So he has a lot of different books, like Originals is a really good one of them, but like the focus of this chat is give and take. So this was written in 2014, and it holds a very strong core idea for entrepreneurs in how they can retain their mental fitness, and that is in very simple terms, giving with a sense of purpose. And giving with a sense of purpose is quite different than just giving and endlessly being a giving person. So we think about entrepreneurship. One of the key things in entrepreneurship is making the right kind of deals. It is almost as important as dealing with failure and other things, but it is a very strong idea. But there's a problem with that. There's a problem that we don't always talk about. There's a right way and a wrong way to give. I'll circle back to this, but first let me introduce Adam Grant's concept of 3 different types of people for part of this analogy. So he talks about 3 types of people. There are givers, there are takers, and there are matchers. So what kind of people are these? So givers are the type of people who usually give more than they get. They focus on other people's needs. Takers, on the other hand, make this internal calculation of always focusing on their own needs and on their own wins. They sometimes give as well, but their idea is to always take more than that they are giving. And they believe that the world is very competitive and winners survive. So it's this stereotypical picture of you can go and get what you want, like you have to protect yourself, and that's the only thing that matters in the world type of a philosophy that I don't agree with. Matchers, on the other hand, is quite straightforward. Those are the tit-for-tat type of people. They try to balance out the deals. So personally, when I read this book, I read this book in 2015, and when I read this book, I realized for a very long stretch in my professional life, I was a matcher. I would calculate, because of my need of fairness and really trying to maximize the value I get of the experiences that I have and have a good life. I was acting like a matcher. I realized when I read that book, especially in my corporate experience, I would be calculating, okay, this is what I'm giving, but what am I taking? What is the value of this to me? But once I have read that book, and once I have made, and I think those happened in parallel to a certain extent, started this entrepreneurial journey of more collaborative, creative pursuits of business, I realized a better strategy is actually being a giver. And the Adam Grant's research actually supports that the reciprocity style of being a giver is actually a trait of the most successful people. So givers are the most successful people when you order these three groups of people into a list. But interestingly enough, givers are also the least successful people, and the middle middle of that curve is filled with the matchers and takers. They dominate the middle. So what is, like, of course, the question we all have once we have find out about this is, what is the difference between those people who are at the top versus who are at the bottom, despite the fact that they are both givers? And the answer to that is actually quite simple. Givers at the top give with a sense of purpose, while givers at the bottom are selfless and they burn out. And I think there's a psychology behind this as well. So selfless act of endless giving and being helpful to the others to the detriment of yourself and protecting your own being, this can only come from an unhealthy psychology. It might be, and this would depend on the person obviously, so I don't want to generalize too broadly here, but the core principle is that there is something that person is trying to hide or run away from, or not really come face to face, and it might be a lack of self-love, not working for yourself. It might be the endless need to try to prove your worth to others by showing how helpful you are actually to them. In a perfectly ideal, non-existent, by the way, human being who has none of these self-doubt, self-worth, self-love issues, giving does not happen despite of the well-being of the individual, because while you're trying to give to someone, while you're trying to help to that someone, your urge is to be helpful, to actually create value. But on the other hand, you yourself, you're a human as well, so you deserve that value to yourself as well. So what can be the idea if you do not see yourself worthy of that help and others? This can only mean that you have self-worth and self-love issues that you need to work on. On the other hand, givers at the top, they give with a sense of purpose. They do protect themselves. They give to themselves as well. They want a good life for themselves as well. But they also want to see a change in the world. They want to see value. They want to see something bigger. They want to see themselves as successful and happy people, as part of something bigger that other people are working towards. So it's actually quite interesting. It is like the act of giving with a sense of purpose is at the same time very selfish, and it's also at the same time very humanistic to that extent. So you want to optimize it for yourself and for others, and that can only happen through what you think is good for other people and for the world. So you see a sense of responsibility within as well. And the question is, what is your something bigger? Ask yourself this question: what is my something bigger that I'm working? What is the purpose there? It is not bad to serve your own needs, but it is when it's the only thing that you serve. If the only thing that you care about is your own needs, then you start losing control and you start being relatable. Dream big. Dreaming big is good and it's okay, but also ask yourself constantly this question: I have big dreams, but imagine if your dream is to have a good house with a pool, a few cars, a few summer homes, and people looking up to you, then you know what? I'll be honest with you. This is a lack of imagination. This is a problem of lack of imagination. Because if you can actually imagine more, if you can actually dream big, dream bigger, you should be able to imagine a scenario where you have more respect, you have more status, you have more self-worth, you have more value, you have a better amplitude and quantity and quality of positive feelings, not just by personal wealth creation, but by also being helpful to others. So what is the version of yourself that has the biggest positive impact on the world? And what plans does that person have that you currently don't? Thank you for joining in this episode. Hopefully these are useful to you. Take care, and I'll talk to you in the next one.